It's time to continue with the Forgotten Pokemon of Generation 2 series. Today I'll be playing through Pokemon Gold with Girafarig. Dunsparce, Stantler, and Qwilfish have all impressed me so far. Can this little yellow spotted horse thing do the same? Let's find out. Girafarig has fairly balanced stats. It has good attack, special attack, and speed. Its defenses are balanced, and it isn't lacking HP. The moves it knows right out of the gate are a huge advantage for it as well. Stab, Stomp, and Confusion are going to make the early game a complete breeze. For Tms and Hms, it has access to an incredibly diverse pool of moves. The standouts for me are Headbutt, Hidden Power, Earthquake, Return, Psychic, Shadow Ball, Mud Slap, and Swift. I think it's set up for success in Johto. Like, subscribe, ring the Chimecho, comment, and share the video with a friend. You have the power to make me feel warm, fuzzy feelings inside, and all you have to do is click a little thumb and a red button. In order to maximize Girafarig's potential, I need to reset for one with decent DVs. Just by reviewing its stats at level 5, I can tell if its defense, special attack, and defense, and speed are perfect. In this case, I end up choosing this guy. It has perfect speed and the highest non-perfect value in every other stat. With that out of the way, I head out on the first route to get the first chance to see this little horse's back sprite, and I don't like this one. If I have to stare at this creepy tail face thing the entire time, I think I'm gonna lose my soul. Why is Girafarig not a Psychic Dark type? That tail is certainly up to some evil things. Stab normal moves in the early game are pretty overpowered. The rival doesn't stand a chance against me when I stomp for nearly 100 power. Because of how well this is going, I concoct a plan. I read all the comments, by the way. By doing so, I obtain small pieces of wisdom that you choose to share with me, like this piece of wisdom. I want to try to make this teleport strategy work with Girafarig. It's doing so well right now, and it has a large amount of available PP, so I think that this strat is possible. So the last heal that I'm going to do is in Violet City. After defeating Falkner, I make my way south and skip the center outside of Union Cave. In here, I pick up the TM for Swift, but I don't want to teach it now. It's going to be much more useful later in the game. In Slowpoke's Well, I begin to worry about my PP, as I do often. It's getting really low, and I still need to take on Whitney and Bugsy. Funny enough, when I enter the gym and battle the first trainer, I realize that Kurt heals you after the Rockets are defeated. Well, that makes this strategy much easier. But will Bugsy be easy? Fury Cutter is going to be super effective against Girafarig. Metapod comes out first. Stomp does excellent damage, and of course Metapod gets hard. I use Confusion and knock it out. Scyther's next. It outspeeds with Fury Cutter and does a small amount of damage. Stomp doesn't even take it into orange health. Second turn is Fury Cutter is now double the power it was on the previous turn, and Girafarig survives with only 14 hit points remaining. It uses its horse hooves to stomp, and Scyther faints due to a critical hit. That was really lucky. I could have been delayed much longer here. Next time I think I'd level up a bit more before attempting this fight. In the forest, I pick up Headbutt and teach it to Girafarig immediately in the place of Tackle. The 30% chance to flinch is really going to be great against Whitney. She leads with Clefairy. Girafarig's Headbutt does good damage. In retaliation, Clefairy uses Metronome, which selects Icy Wind, dealing 1/4 damage to me. Next turn I knock it out and Miltank's next. It starts to roll, and I use Growl to lower its attack. Then it misses, and Girafarig's Headbutt does around 1/4 of damage. For some reason I decided to use another Growl, and this puts me in a bad position. I faint one turn before knocking it out. That's Girafarig's first reset. On the second fight, things are even worse. Miltank uses Attract, which causes Horse to occasionally not attack. On the turn that Rollout would knock me out though, it misses, and then Attract prevents me from landing the final blow. Next turn, the Miltank uses Milk Drink, and this starts to feel hopeless. I use 2 more Headbutt, and Rollout takes me all the way down to 3 hit points. But at the last minute, when everything is on the line, Girafarig lands its Headbutt and knocks Miltank out. Headbutt is actually a really fitting move for Girafarig after all. Now it's time to complete the speedrunning tactic that I mentioned earlier. In the game corner, I purchase coins and buy an Abra. Using Teleport takes me all the way back to Violet City. That lets me skip all the trainers on the route north of Goldenrod. Additionally, Teleport can be a useful utility to save small amounts of time here and there for the rest of the run. By the way, thanks for suggesting that I should show the kimono girl that is the strongest against my Pokemon. I always got lazy here and just showed the first one that I fought. But in this case, it's not very exciting because Umbreon is easy for Girafarig to take care of. Next is Morty. Girafarig's advantage here is that it's a normal type. Only the Gengar can actually deal direct damage to me because of this. And in this case, it has to put me to sleep first in order to use Dream Eater. Additionally, Confusion is super effective against his Pokemon, so I can sweep through his team with relative ease. It's nice when this fight feels easy. I do the optional rival fight next. Haunter is first, and I've got Confusion to knock it out. Next is Magnemite. I don't really have a good option here, so I just knock it out over 3 turns with Confusion. Zubat isn't an issue, and last is his ace, Quilava. I made the excellent move choice of Growl against it, and it really shows how intimidating my horse is. Ember doesn't do much damage, so Girafarig's Headbutt gets the job done. Good job, freaky little tailbutt guy. During the lighthouse, I teach Girafarig Shadow Ball. After that, I stop by and say hi to our good friend Dennis. I don't think it's a coincidence that the TM for Swagger is right next to him. In the fighting gym, I start to think about Chuck. This one is weird. I'll take neutral damage from his fighting moves, and I've got super effective damage against him in the form of Confusion. In the first fight, I realize that I can't one-hit the Primeape, and that allows it to deal damage to me. Poliwrath is next. I use Shadow Ball for some reason, and it does very little damage. Why didn't I just use Confusion? My punishment for not using it is that I get confused. Then Girafarig teeters on the brink of defeat for a couple of turns until it finally gets knocked out. I tried one more time and it goes largely the same as the first fight though. If I'm a few levels higher, I'll be able to take the Primeape down in one hit and match up better against the Poliwrath. Luckily, the sea is actually a pretty good place to train. The wild Pokemon here actually give decent experience and there's a lot of trainers. At level 33, I one-shot the Primeape with Confusion and level up. Poliwrath is next. My brain broke here again, so I just ignore Confusion and I use Headbutt instead. But this misplay actually pays off, and Poliwrath flinches. Not once, but twice. With that luck, Girafarig is victorious. If I was going to replay this run, I'd train slightly more before attempting here. There's opportunities to do so in the Lighthouse or between Ecruteak and Olivine anyways. And then obviously I'd use Confusion. I'm not going to waste time re-attempting Jasmine over and over. Going for her right away is always usually a bad choice unless I have a super effective move. I make my way over to Mahogany Town and then north to the Lake of Rage. Here I pick up Hidden Power, and I promise I'll actually test it out this time and see what type I got. I fly back to the lake and then take on the Gyarados. Last time I mentioned that I always forget to stock up on Great Balls right before this fight, but today I remembered my balls. I'm proud of myself. The Rocket plotline is monotonous and boring as usual, but it provides some good experience for Horse. Price is next, and as always, he's not worth talking about. I've started to test out Hidden Power at this point. It's neutral against all the Pokemon I've fought in here, so I need to do some more testing. Outside of Olivine City, I fight a couple trainers to get more data. Hidden Power does super effective damage to the Pikachu, so it's a ground type. That's honestly a miracle. It allows me to take care of both of Jasmine's Magnemites in a single hit. Steelix comes out, and unfortunately its 200 base defense allows it to tank a super effective ground move very well. Iron Tail is also doing a lot of damage because Girafarig doesn't have particularly strong defenses. I decide that leveling is going to be the best approach for now. While I'm training, a cheesy strat comes to mind, so I immediately head back to try it out. I sweep through the Magnemite with Hidden Power as before. Iron Tail has a base accuracy of 75%, so I was hoping that using Mud Slap to lower Steelix's accuracy would allow me to avoid hits, but a massive crit immediately takes Girafarig down to red health. Now it's Swagger time, to make Steelix less consistent with a status condition. It hits itself twice because of Confusion, and that allows Girafarig to take it down to orange health. I think I'm gonna need 2 more hits at this range though. Hidden Power lands against Steelix, and surprisingly it does enough damage to knock it out due to a critical hit. Girafarig is past the 7th gym. The one thing that comes with the final section of the Johto Rocket plotline is Return. In these solo playthroughs, I've been grabbing it once I defeat all the Rockets, but this time I pick it up immediately. When I start the game, I select the default time setting of 10 AM, and then Sunday is the day when my mom asks. That way, if I play through the entire playthrough in one 12-hour period, I'm able to grab this without having to reset the clock. The addition of this incredibly powerful normal move to Girafarig's moveset makes the rival trivial. This little guy is really pulling together an overpowered moveset now. With all the pesky rockets behind me, I spend a bit of time training before Ice Path. I'd rather avoid training against wild Pokemon, so doing a few extra fights right now seems like a safe choice. There's never actually a reason to excessively skip training in Johto, because Red is always going to require a high level to defeat. Claire opens with Dragonair. Return takes it down in a single hit. That means the next two Pokemon are also going to go down this way. Kingdra is last, and I do enough damage to it to ensure that it's going to faint on the next turn. When using a team of 6 Pokemon, Claire can be really tough to manage, but in solo playthroughs, I've rarely had issues with her. I proceed to Victory Road, after scouring Johto for rare candies, and here I pick up the TM for Earthquake. Hidden Power, you've been really good to Girafarig, but it's time for you to go. Thanks for helping me out against Jasmine. The rival here is simple. He really never feels too difficult in these games. I also wish his team had a bit more synergy as well. In yellow, the rival's team for the champion fight has really strong synergy. It starts with 2 fast attackers, Sandslash and Alakazam. Then the fight slows down with Executor, Cloyster, or Ninetales. They can trap you in the Leech Seed, Fire Spin, or Clamp combo. Magneton is also sometimes in the mix here, and it can mess you up with Paralysis. This leaves you very vulnerable for his ace to finish you off. The rival here just never feels like his team really works well together. I think the only fight against him where there is sort of some synergy is in the Burned Tower. Oh well, at least the Johto League is extremely intimidating, right? Here's my stats and moveset going into it. With my current level, I'm fairly confident that I'm going to get through this quickly. I'll likely lose my first attempt because mistakes are bound to happen, but perhaps it's only going to take a total of 2 or 3 attempts. By the way, in my Johto playthroughs, I am requiring the Pokemon to complete the league without saving between league members. So let's do this. Shadow Ball is super effective against all of Will's Psychic Pokemon. Of them, Executor and Slowbro have the highest special defense though, so they probably won't go down in one hit consistently. Because of my speed and the fact that I'm one-hitting most of his team, this fight is actually already consistent. Koga is next. I use Psybeam against Gyarados and knock it out. Fortress takes some time to whittle down with neutrally effective Earthquakes. After that, I use Earthquake again against Muck. Psybeam would have been a far better choice here, but Earthquake still does enough damage. Against the following Crobat and Venomoth, Return gets the job done. Bruno's only Pokemon that is a real threat is Machamp. It has decent special defense for a fighting type, and Cross Chop allows it to do good damage to normal types. Girafarig is lucky though, because it has the demon attached to its butt that gives it psychic powers, which makes the fighting type moves do neutral damage. Since I'm surviving the Machamp's attacks, this fight is consistent as well. No embarrassing Bruno losses today. Karen is next. Remember when I mentioned that Swift would be useful later? This is what I was referring to. However, I got a bit fancy and I tried to keep Shadow Ball instead of removing it for Swift. I just thought maybe I could keep it for Red's Espeon. This was a mistake and it leads to Murkrow dealing a lot of damage after I miss twice with Return. Then Houndoom comes out and I realize how silly it was to unlearn Earthquake. I miss my Return and then the Dark Doggo knocks me out with Crunch. My second league attempt is just as easy as the first, but I have a chance this time to tighten up my play against Will and Koga. I get back to Karen and this time I use Swift and keep Earthquake. Umbreon lowers my accuracy with Sand Attack, but Swift allows me to bypass this stat change and knock the Murkrow out without taking damage. Houndoom is next, and Earthquake one-shots it. Psybeam takes care of the following Vileplume and Gengar with ease. I'm past Karen now, and it's time for the Dragon Master Lance. For Lance, I change up my moveset significantly. Sleep Talk replaces Earthquake, and Rest replaces Swift. I'm reconsidering, and I'm confident that Return and Psychic will be enough to defeat Red. Earthquake is really useless against Lance anyways. He's basically a flying trainer. Return doesn't knock out Gyarados, but it always sets up Rain Dance, so I can just knock it out the next turn. Dragonite is next, and after surviving Return, it paralyzes Girafarig. This is the primary reason that I got Rest and Sleep Talk on my moveset. I heal up and remove Paralysis, and then I use Sleep Talk to knock the first Dragonite out. The second one goes down after Sleep Talk does its job and picks Return. I use Psybeam against Aerodactyl, and it survives and then retaliates with Hyper Beam. Girafarig survives at half health, and and I decide to use Rest because I've got an extra turn due to Aerodactyl's need to recharge. Here I was thinking to myself, I hope that Sleep Talk selects Psybeam, and then my hands just selected Psybeam instead. I guess I squandered that extra turn. I continue to heal up a few more times. I could have been more aggressive here, but I didn't want to fight the Charizard with damage. Finally, Sleep Talk selects Psybeam and knocks the Aerodactyl out. The fire-breathing Knot Dragon is next. Sleep Talk selects Return, and it takes Charizard down into red health. Flamethrower does around 1/3 damage to Girafarig, and I wake up and knock the Charizard out. Against the last Dragonite, I do more than half damage with Return, and then it uses Safeguard. That's an anticlimactic victory. But what is really exciting about this is that Girafarig is getting a really great time so far. I'm under 2 hours and I'm already moving on to Kanto. Now Girafarig has the chance to do something only Scizor has accomplished so far in my videos. Defeat 7 Kanto gym leaders without using a Pokemon Center once. Good PP reserves on Psybeam and Return help to enable this, as well as the fact that Sleep Talk uses its own PP, not the PP of the selected move. I also pick up the TM for Psychic, so I can use this to replace Psybeam once its PP runs out. Erica's gym is filled with trainers, so she drains my PP a lot. I guess she does give out Giga Drain after all. After defeating the first 4 leaders, I need to use a couple of Ethers to continue through the Nugget Bridge portion of Kanto. After Brock is defeated, there's only one more gym leader before Girafarig has done it. Blaine is last, and Psychic gets the job done. Well done, Girafarig. You've matched Scizor's Kanto performance. Now, the question remains if you can beat its overall time. I heal in Viridian City, and then challenge Blue. He opens with Pidgeot, and it survives Return. Wing Attack does a small amount of damage, and then I finish the bird off. Return takes care of Alakazam in a single hit because it has frail physical defenses. The opposite, of course, is true of Rhydon, who has poor special defense, allowing Psychic to knock it out. Gyarados is next. Blue really likes to heal it with full restores, so this takes a bit of time. My arch nemesis Executor comes out, and of course it survives Return. It seeds Girafarig, which could make things a bit annoying and unpredictable against Arcanine. Luckily, Return does enough damage that Leech Seed Heal doesn't take the Arcanine out of 2-hit range, and it faints on the next turn. Red is last. I always fight him at the level that I arrive at just to see if it's possible. One day a Pokemon is going to surprise us, and I really want to experience that moment. I outspeed Pikachu and I knock it out with Return. That's great, I don't need to figure out how to avoid Charm this time. Espeon survives Return and then hits me with Psychic, but I resist it and take around 1/3 damage. The big boy Snorlax is next. I use Return and it does really great damage. It sets up Amnesia, and then my second turn Return gets a critical hit and Snorlax faints. Charizard survives Return with green health, and it takes me within an inch of knockout with Flamethrower. I use Return again in hopes of getting a more favorable range, but it doesn't happen and I have to reset. I think my little Psychic Giraffe is getting very close to defeating Red. Wait, Giraffe? What am I saying? It's a horse. The neck is definitely not long enough to be a giraffe. I try this fight at a few different levels, slowly using rare candies, 2 or 3 at a time. At level 75, I still can't one-shot the Espeon, and that allows it to set up Reflect. This makes Snorlax significantly more difficult. It survives for so long and Body Slam does a lot of damage to me. This means I'm gonna have to use Rest to get past it. I arrive at Charizard while asleep. I'd like Sleep Talk to select Return, which it does, and then it does massive damage, knocking Charizard out due to a critical hit. Blastoise is next. I rest up and first turn it sets up Rain Dance. Sleep Talk selects Return, and even with a critical hit, it survives. Its powered up Surf does more than half damage to me, and then Sleep Talk lets me use Rest again. With my current moveset, it's actually worth noting that it isn't within the realm of possibility to faint here. I'd either have knocked Blastoise out with an attacking move, or healed myself with Rest. That gives me another chance, and this time Psychic takes the Blastoise down. And then I make one of my classic mistakes, and use Rest when I still have more than 1 turn left of sleep. Venusaur uses Giga Drain, but Girafarig survives at 28 hit points. I heal up, and Venusaur prepares to use Solar Beam. Clearly I was a bit thrown off at this point because I again select Psychic while I'm asleep, and then I take a massive hit from Solar Beam. Next turn, I use Sleep Talk, and Return takes Venusaur down to around half health. Because it begins to prepare Solar Beam again, I can just use Psychic and knock it out. Girafarig defeats Red and completes the game with a time of 2 hours, 31 minutes, and 17 seconds. That's better than the time that I got with Scissor, meaning that this little Psychic Giraffe, horse, has set a new record for completing Generation 2. It's definitely an S-Class Pokemon as things stand right now. But more impressive challengers are coming to Johto soon to give it a run for its money. It's worth recognizing that I'm getting better each time I do a playthrough. There is a clear trend of all my early Johto runs being grouped towards the bottom of the tier list, and the newer ones at the top. I've numbered them so you can see what order I completed these in. Practice, optimizing my routing, learning the mechanics more fully, and letting go of a lot of bad mechanical and strategical habits have allowed me to get faster and faster. I'm excited to revisit some of these first Johto runs I did at a future date, and see just how much my learning impacts their times. Also, since Girafarig did such a great job, I wonder if it would be interesting if I made a Girafarig vs Stantler video. My second time through the game with each of them would obviously be better than my first. I think that these two could be quite close. I'll consider making that video if I see a lot of comments about it, or if this video hits 2,500 likes. Thanks so much for watching. Like, subscribe, ring the chime echo, comment, and share this video with a friend. I know these things are easy to forget, but they really help me out. It's my dream to become a full-time content creator. I love making these videos, so every small interaction from you helps me out. If you want to help me out even more, you can directly support me through Patreon. The link is in the description. No matter how much you pledge, you'll be included in this cool credit sequence at the end of all my videos. I'm currently collecting the first 151 patrons. Also, a big thanks to everyone on my review team and my script editor Roy. You've been catching all the little mistakes that often slip by me. Anyways, the most important thing is that we're all here together, creating an awesome community around Pokemon. If you've made it this far, you're incredible. I'll see you in my next video.